This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jim Schaller.
Welcome, good neighbors, to episode number 68 of the Good Neighbor Podcast to Stereo. Today we have good neighbor Paul Hursta from John Galt Insurance. Paul, welcome.
Hi, how are you doing?
I am doing awesome. Pleasure to get to meet you and talk with you a little bit and learn about what you guys do there.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, so why don't we just jump right in, and why don't you share a little bit about what you do over at John Galt Insurance?
Yeah, so John Galt Insurance, it's kind of unique. We're set up as an agent franchise. So the way it works is we do personal lines. Anything that you own that you need to insure: home, auto, flood, boats, RVs. A little different than your typical brand name like State Farm, Allstate. Instead of selling one product, we're able to do the shopping for the customer with all the different carriers.
Give them the best option, which is always better. That is great. That is great. So how did you get started in the insurance industry?
That's actually a pretty good story. So I was originally from Tennessee, and I worked for a chemical. We did basically environmental type stuff. So picking up chemicals whenever, trucks flipped over, we'd go clean it up. Factories, whenever they had expired products or hazardous waste, we'd go get it. My wife's family's here in Florida, and she decided she wanted to move here. And I was like, okay, let's move to Florida, This was back in 2015.
Okay.
And so she moved down here and got a job, and I stayed to sell the house, and I was going to transfer down with my old company. And then finally sold the house a few months later and was getting ready to come down. As my last week in Tennessee, and I was pulling into my work. I was at a stoplight, about to make a right turn, and a guy hit me from behind at about 60 mile an hour in a truck. I was on a motorcycle, so
Wow.
Of course that didn't end too well for me.
Right.
At the time, I didn't know anything about insurance. I was in sales and service for the chemical company, but the guy that hit me didn't have insurance, and just dealing with that and my agent and how all of that works. Luckily, I did have a good policy and at least able to break even, so I wasn't in a whole bunch of medical bills. And so obviously I couldn't transfer down with a broke back and move 55-gallon drums of chemicals. So that's when I got into insurance and started learning the business. And when I came down, I went to work for State Farm and ran an office down here for a few years, and liked it. They wanted me to open an office, but at the time, State Farm had quit writing the homeowners and very limited on auto. So I just decided to go my own route and go independent. That way I could do the best for my customers and offer them all the different carriers.
Nice. That's learning the hard way, I guess.
Learning the hard way. Yeah.
No, right. But you have the experience, which, is very important nowadays, because, if you've been through it and had to deal with insurance companies, then you know how it works.
Right. I like to educate the customer because, like I said, I was a young guy and didn't know anything about insurance. And the guy said, here's your price. And I was like, okay, sounds like a good price to me. I didn't know what the coverages were, what I was covered for, what I wasn't. But, I get a lot of people the same thing. They're just looking for price and they don't really think about the coverage. And sometimes, you just got to think about the coverage a little bit.
Well, exactly. They look at the cheapest price out there, and it's not always the best coverage for them or what they need or fit their needs. And
that's right.
Important. What's been your toughest challenge as far as getting involved in learning the insurance business?
Oh, I'd say the toughest challenge is learn all the different carriers. When I worked for State Farm, it was one system, and it was pretty simplified. When I went the independent route, now I have 35 homeowner companies that I have to know their guidelines and their websites and how to do the applications, 8 auto insurance carriers, both FEMA and private flood. So just trying to learn all of their different systems and their guidelines. And of course, they're always changing. So that's been the toughest part of being in insurance.
Yeah, right. The ever changing insurance industry, but it's good because you're again able to offer the best solution for somebody rather than, hey, this is all I have. Are there any maybe myths or misconceptions pertaining the insurance industry that we could maybe bust for our listeners today?
Oh man, there's so many myths, and I don't even know where to start. You hear it's that the hurricanes that make the insurance go up. Once your roof gets to a certain age, you can't insure it. Certain conditions of a property make it uninsurable. It's not necessarily that situation. It's just you might not get offer from a lot of the carriers. There's certain ones that specialize in certain things and look for certain things. So what you really need an agent that is able to do that and knows the carriers. In Florida, short-term rentals is a big one. Out of 30 carriers, there's about 5 of them that want to do it.
Wow.
And then just knowing the ins and outs of that.
And how does, obviously, and we all know with Ian coming through here, how has home insurance been affected by the hurricane, and the lack of carriers down here, right?
Yeah. So I mean, they were already still hurting from Irma, in 2017. Sometimes it takes years for those claims to get litigated and them to really realize their losses. And we're really hoping no more hurricanes came through, but then Ian came through, and that kind of finished off what had already been started. I think we lost 12 carriers, and then, maybe 10 or 12 more just shut down for new business and said, hey, we're just going to hold our books and we're not taking anything new. That's when a whole round of, they call it exposure management. So,
Okay.
maybe the carriers notice, hey, in Southwest Florida, we have way too much exposures. And that's why a lot of people got non-renewed from their policies. It was nothing that they did. It was just the company saying, hey, if another hurricane comes through, it's going to put us in a bad situation. So we need to get rid of some policies here so we can write some in the other areas of the state and kind of spread that risk around.
And the nice thing is with you is you mentioned you had 35 different carriers you can go to. So it's not just, hey, we don't do that. You can find somebody that does and give
Right,
people an
right,
option.
right. Yeah,
So,
I actually get a lot of business from people that can't find insurance. They're calling around. I work with realtors pretty closely. They have people buying a house, and maybe there's an issue with the roof or an issue that needs to be fixed, and of course they can't get it fixed till they buy the house. So
all right.
a lot of times I know carriers that will help them out and do it, and then once they get the new roof on or the issue corrected, then we just change the policies and update everything.
Nice. See, it's the little things like that. So I know running your own business, and being in charge of that on a day-to-day basis, you don't have a lot of free time. But what do you enjoy doing when you do find some free time?
Oh, my free time, I have 2 girls, a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old. The 14 likes playing basketball, so we do that. Like going shopping, going out to eat, just your normal things. I'm from Tennessee, so of course I like the nature. I like to get outside, and Florida's a great place, with all the different nature areas and preserves to just get out and walk around.
That's it. That's why we live down here, so we can be outside and
Plus,
enjoy it
plus the
year
beach,
round. Well,
plus the beach, right?
the beach isn't bad, right? That's a great bonus. Got a favorite beach, by the way?
Well, I'm just a couple miles from Bonita Beach, so we like Bonita Beach down there in Clam Pass. We like Clam
Okay.
Pass a lot down in Naples.
Very nice. I know Ian did some damage down there, but it's starting to come back and things are
Yeah.
opening up. So that's good to see. So is there one thing that you wish our listeners would know about insurance that maybe they don't know?
Yeah. Um, I mean, I know pricing has gone up a lot lately, and people think it's the insurance companies just trying to make money, but it's like, they're all still competing with each other, and even though pricing has gone up, if they don't raise the prices, they're going to be gone, and then if they're gone, there's going to be no insurance. So,
It's it's
um,
a it's a double-edged sword, right?
double-edged sword. Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough.
And everybody has their own financial situation. Some people are risk takers and they're fine with reducing or removing certain coverages from policies, and some people have been through some bad situations and they just want to make sure that they have plenty of coverage if anything ever happens. So, there's just not one kind of policy. Every policy is customizable to that person's wants and needs.
Got it. You had mentioned that. Do you find a lot of people rolling the dice and going, "Hey, I don't need insurance," kind of thing?
Not so much in the past, but the last couple of years, just with the pricing increasing, um, Yes, we found that. I've had some of my own clients saying, it's just getting too expensive. I can put that money in the bank, and if it goes a couple years, I got the money to pay for the damages.
Right.
And I understand that. If you have the money to do that, that's one thing. But it's like I tell them, we can exclude hurricane coverage and get you a policy fairly cheap that's going to cover any water damage, any fire, any liability if somebody gets hurt on the property. So there's always options other than just your full coverage, homeowner policy.
Right. And that's good to know. I'm sure a lot of people are unaware of that.
Right.
So, and any last things for our listeners that you'd like to share about you or yourself, John Galt?
No, just that, I worked for State Farm for a few years, and I seen how agents are with that. And I always said that, hey, my clients are first, I'm not a salesperson by any means. I was more into customer service, but sales was part of it. I don't try to sell anybody anything. I just try to help them the best I can,
And that's the best way to do it. It's you listen, you take care of your customers and give them the right, right solutions. So
Right.
how would our listeners go about getting a hold of you if they're interested in learning a little bit more or signing up for insurance?
Right. Best way is just to call me directly. My phone number is 239-405-9801. A lot of people like to use email these days, very busy. So that is my name, Paul, Paul, Hursta, Hursta, at johngaltinsurance.com. We also have a corporate website out Fort Lauderdale. It's John Galt Insurance. I can be found there. And then we have the one in Bonita Springs, which is where I'm located. It's John Galt Insurance, Paul Hursta Agency.
Nice. Perfect. Hey, Paul, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, and I hope to see you out in the neighborhood soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate what you do, and I've watched a few of your podcasts, and it's really good. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you for being part of it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Estero. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpestero.com. That's gnpestero.com or call 239-296-2621.